Boy, oh man, that's a good question. Get the kids off their phone and on bikes. I'm going to get a T-shirt made up that says, "Let's get kids off their devices and back in the ER where they belong," because it's character building. Yeah, and not everybody did survive,
That's true.
but the ones that did have some true grit. That's the problem. If you're afraid of your kid getting a nick or a cut or going to the ER, well, that's a part of childhood. It's a part of my childhood,
Yeah.
right?
Sure. No.
Hi, this is Bill Allen, lead actor and star of RAD. I played Cru Jones, and I'm also a character development executive for the Helltrack comic series. And I'm here today on Two Geeks Talking.
Good morning, afternoon, evening, everyone. Two Geeks Talking is an entertainment industry interview show where we interview the creative people from the comic, film, TV, movie, and video game industries. And of course, I'm your host, Kurt Sasso. We're joined today by a multi-talented individual. Not only is he the lead actor of RAD, playing the character of Cru Jones, he has also written a memoir. He's a musician as well. He's the character development creator of a new comic series called Helltrack. We're joined by the ever-talented Bill Allen. How are you doing today?
I'm very, very good. How are you, Kurt?
I'm doing good. Thanks for asking. For those that don't know anything about yourself as a creative person, tell us who you are and what you're bringing to the show today.
Well, let's see. I'm an actor who hails from Dallas, Texas, and I moved out to Los Angeles in the early 80s and started working in film and television soon after. I was on Family Ties. I did Steven Spielberg's Amazing Stories, Hotel, O'Hara. I did a lot of nice episodic stuff. And it was around that time that I got cast in the lead role as Cru Jones in the Hal Needham directed movie called RAD that helped introduce BMX bicycle motocross to the world.
Yeah, I remember seeing that on VHS way back when because I happened upon it and I saw the cool poster on the opening thing of the VHS box. I put it in. I was just blown away just by all of that. In fact, it got me into bike riding. So not to the extent of BMX, but I really started enjoying that here. And you've had such a wide variety, varying career. But RAD is currently almost at its 40th anniversary, which I think is amazing how it stood the test of time. What was that first real signal that there was enough demand to justify a new story in the universe and in the medium of comics?
I guess it's kind of been a slow boil. I first became aware of the size of the cult of RAD at the 25th anniversary in Calgary, now 15 years ago. And it was a 3-day film festival all over the city of Calgary. And all they did was play RAD at different venues. And people showed up from all over, including some of the filmmakers and people who were in the movie. And I started attending some BMX events and some screenings, and it snowballed from there. But I soon became aware that it was a fan favorite, that the true hardcore fans, whether it was a bootleg or old VHS, they were going to see the movie no matter what. And the fact that it actually was remastered and put out on DVD, that was a godsend to fans. But it was also an industry changer. The way they released the 4K version of RAD was special edition versions through Vinegar Syndrome initially, and that went just great guns. They were sold out immediately, and the actual movie studios took note of this and now start releasing their DVDs and special releases first, because why not?
Yeah.
And it really was an industry changer, and RAD did that.
Oh, for sure. I mean, that to me was kind of the first experience in bike riding and BMX and stunts for that matter. Because I was a young kid watching it. I didn't realize you could flip a bike like that on a dirt track or become so excited about winning an amazing race at that. In terms of this comic, though, you got the original screenwriters of Sam Bernard and Geoffrey Edwards on this particular story. Plus, you're on character development. How does that original creators plus original star angle change how you talk about this project?
Well, since there's been a 40-year gap in the story of Cru Jones and what happens, that opens up the possibility of an aging Cru Jones retelling the story of Helltrack to his grandkid, and it's really a reimagining of Helltrack, because often we misremember things, tend to glorify other aspects of our lives, and so that's all part of it. Cru retelling the story of Helltrack and his journey on Helltrack with a little embellishment, and that's fun for the fans. So that was part of my contribution, I think.
So then, as you've aged and as you're telling this story, and this is an amazing comic, the way it's beautifully drawn. I'd love to talk about the team in a second here. How's your understanding of what Cru was actually afraid of changed, and what's scarier to you now than it was for him then?
Well, I think everybody has a tendency to uh, have a story that fits who they are today, whether it's based in truth or not. And it almost isn't based in reality. It's this narrative that we put together for ourselves to get through the day. It's necessary, whether it's forgetting some trauma that's happened or pumping up some achievement to make it greater than it actually is, exaggerating the wins and forgetting about the losses. This seems to be human nature. And so, in regards to this story, it lent itself to that kind of retelling, reimagining of Helltrack, and having some fun along the way, putting some Easter eggs in there for some fans, and just having some fun with it.
In terms of the team itself here, who did you get to work with, and how did that conversation come about?
Well, this largely happened through my partner, Todd Seligman. He is more into the graphic novel world, and was able to get a couple of rock star artists in that realm, Lamar Supreme, who did the artwork, and Steve Stern, who did the book for it, the text. And so they were super excited to be a part of something, a subject that really isn't visited by graphic novel artists often. It was a new challenge for them, and I think they rose to the challenge well, and we were able to work together as a team with Sam and Geoffrey, Todd, and myself to come up with something dynamic, interesting, and not just a cookie cutter of the script, which we could have done, but I like this version in that it offers something a little different to fans.
Was there a page, or was there a line in the comic that just spoke to you, or that you just really thought that was really amazing?
Boy, nothing that was my favorite part. I think it's all great, and for me, it's the reimagining of it. I think I like to frame it as a Princess Diary, or Princess Bride rather, narrative, where it's the older guy kind of telling the young kid what happened in a different framework, whether it actually happened or not. So that was what was attractive to me.
Could you see this as a remake, as a live action film or a live action series?
Well, it's another chapter in the RAD universe.
Sure.
There's been so little for the fans to chew on since the movie was originally released.
Mhm.
We recreated Helltrack in Dallas about 8 years ago, and the movie was remastered, and there's been some documentaries surrounding it. And so this is something else that the fans can really hold in their
Sure.
hands, and have a different take on RAD that was actually approved and written by the creators.
Nice.
So it's pretty fun.
Would you like it to be a second film or a continuation of the series in live action?
Oh, sure. I mean, I came out here to be a film artist, and I have a couple of BMX movies and series in development currently. So I'm leaning into that heavy in my golden years. It seems not only it's what I'm known for, but the message of RAD and the friendly competition of RAD is something I'm wholeheartedly behind. We have the Olympics coming up in Los Angeles in a year or two. BMX is a big part of the Olympics coming up. Freestyle, skate park. What am I leaving out? Racing. So I think there is a direct relation to RAD, to Nitro Circus, to the Do Tour, and to the Olympics. I think RAD was just a fire starter as far as this sport and action sports in general.
Oh, for sure. You've acted, you've written a memoir, you've created music. Can you talk about your musical journey as a creative person? Because I am curious about that, because I don't think many people are aware of that particular side of yourself.
Yeah, I was in a theater company in the 1980s with John Lee Hancock, who's now a famous director. He did The Founder and The Rookie and The Highwaymen. He's a big deal in Hollywood. Well, we started a theater company in the 80s with a young Brandon Lee and my brother Sherman and some other very talented folks. And so John Lee wrote a script, a play about a blues band. And the band in the play was called the Pipefitters. Well, the play closed, but the band stayed together. Lou Diamond Phillips, who's a dear friend of mine from my early days as an actor in Dallas, ended up fronting the band. So we toured as the Pipefitters with Lou Diamond Phillips for a good long time. He was a box office draw.
Yeah.
And so we were getting incredible stadium gigs. We played Farm Aid. We toured and performed with Billy Ray Cyrus when he was doing stadiums. So it was pretty heady stuff. It was one of the highlights of my life is getting on a tour bus with six of my best friends and just running around like madmen. It was as much as you can possibly imagine, maybe even a little more. Cut to all these decades later, I seem to be as into music as I ever was. So Christopher Lindsay, who played bass in the Pipefitters, is now a big shot in Nashville.
Wow.
And he's a producer. He's produced everybody from, I want to say Bon Jovi to Taylor Swift. Is that her name?
Yep.
And everybody in between. So my current lineup is called Cowboy Sweetheart. It's my brother, Sherman, luminous singer, Mercedes De La Vara. So we're going out to Nashville soon to do some tracks in Chris Lindsay's studio. And there's even talk about some Pipefitters tracks that we will probably be doing in the near future. Awesome. So it's just one of those things. Is the band really getting back together? Yeah, I guess the band's getting back together. I'm such good friends with Lou Diamond to this day. We talked yesterday, and we've got a documentary that we worked on coming out. And so it's a joy to work with my friends and to see my friends thrive and do great things in the world. So it's fun to reconnect with these people and work together. Yeah.
That's truly amazing. I love that. What is it about music that sparks your creativity?
I would say it was kind of my escape growing up in Dallas. There was a thriving blues scene. When I was a teenager, you could go see a young Stevie Ray Vaughan or people of his level down the street at Greenville Avenue. And since I wasn't an academic, music was a big release for me and a great joy. And eventually I got to meet a lot of these musicians that I admired and playing with them. Bugs Henderson, who was a legendary Texas musician, became a dear friend. I ended up producing a tribute album for him after he passed away. It was a part of my upbringing. And then I moved to Hollywood and kind of just forgot about it for a while because I was an actor and I wasn't a musician in Texas. It was only when I moved to California that I started taking music lessons and getting gigs and touring. And so it happened pretty quickly for me. I wasn't one of those child prodigies, quite the opposite. I came to it later in life. It's just a joy. I play guitar now, but I'm getting sucked back into the playing harmonica for a couple of different bands. So it's fun.
I played clarinet in high school because I took after my mother. So that's my extent of my musical career.
Stuck with it.
No, no, I still play it every so often. Actually,
Awesome.
I make sure I keep myself in tune.
All right. Good job.
Are there any life lessons that you picked up either from the movie or from the comic that you consciously put into your own lifestyle?
Sure. Sam, who wrote the script to RAD, was reading the Joseph Campbell Hero of a Thousand
Mm.
Faces, Hero with a Thousand Faces at the time. So it was a real hero's journey. And the line where Cru talks about if your gut talks to you, you listen. And that goes right along with following your passion and doing the thing that makes you special or makes you feel like you're in the zone. And so that was baked into the script of RAD, and it is a huge part of my life. If I'm not passionate about something outside of going to the dentist, I'm probably not going to do it. That's been a big life lesson for me because I've got sidetracked through my life and started trading my hours for dollars, and that stopped working for me pretty quickly. And it took me a while to get back on the beam. As long as I follow what I love, which I know what I love, that this is easy for me to find out. I know what these things are. As long as I stick to those things, everything else works out, right? It does for me.
That's beautiful. I love that. It's words to live by. Truly, I think anyone that'll watch this or listen to this, if they can apply that into their own lives in some way, shape, or form, is truly a good thing to have. Sets a path that I think a lot of people don't actually have. It's something to focus on, I should say. If you could sit down with your 1986 self right after RAD premiered and explain what this graphic novel is and why it exists, what would 1986 you find most surprising about the conversation?
Initially, Brad did not do well at the box office, and that usually means the death knell of any project. It comes out, nothing happens. Well, this was in the day of VHS, and it found its audience and found its wings in blockbusters and mom and pop VHS stores around the world. I would advise a 24-year-old Bill Allen who had just seen Rad not do well at the box office. I would advise him to ignore the box office and continue working in the realm of BMX because it did make a huge splash in the industry and with kids around the world who wanted to emulate Cru Jones and do the tricks in the movie. It took me 25 years to really understand the impact that that movie had and that there was still a rabid fan base who wanted to relive it in any way they could.
Speaking of the fans here, and we've talked about the 40th anniversary.
It was March is the official 40th anniversary, but I'm celebrating the whole year, as you can see.
That's a good thing. Because of these fans, because they've supported this throughout these 40 years here, what's the most meaningful piece of fan feedback or story you've received about what Cru or the film meant to them?
Well, it was such a bonding thing for so many kids, including family members, brothers, most often would glom onto this thing and watch it and rewatch it and then go and do the tricks out in the parking lot. And some of them became professionals or bike store owners or bicycle mechanics. A lot of them got into the industry for that. Cut to 20, 30, 40 years later, life happens. And it is not unusual that I have sort of a make a wish call, or I find out somebody important in a fan's life who's a rad fan is at the end of their road, and I get an opportunity to talk to these guys. Boy, it is very meaningful when I get to talk to somebody who's looking back at their life at the end of their life, and they are so grateful for the impact that RAD had on them. And they get to express that to me. I've had that on several occasions. It just happens, and it will happen more as I get older. But to know that at the end of somebody's road, they still hold this as an informative, inspirational work of art, for lack of a better term, that's, man, my job here is done.
You know, nostalgia is one thing, but fond memories are another. And the fact that they're coming to you and they're reaching out, and I'm glad you've made a strong impression on them, whether it's you personally or whether it's the film itself. I think that's amazing. 10 years down the road, though, 50th anniversary, if someone discovers Helltrack and goes back and watches RAD for the first time, what do you hope they'll take away from that experience?
They're going to love it just how it is. I see it all the time. I go to screenings where people haven't seen it before, aren't rabid RAD fans. They either stumbled onto it or got dragged to the screening, and the story still resonates. The action still holds up, and for some reason, the kind of aged editing and music, that's of the 80s so much that doesn't really translate so much these days. Still, it makes for an impactful film, and it lands just the way you want it to.
Mm-hmm.
And so I can see that continuing. I know it's going to. And I saw Hal Needham the last time I saw Hal Needham, the director of RAD, the director of Smokey and the Bandit, Cannonball Run, Stoker Ace, on and on. He was a hit maker in Hollywood. He understood that RAD had the longest legs of any of his movies. Even Smokey and the Bandit, sure, there's still Smokey fans out there, but they're not as rabid or as numerous as the RAD fans. And he lived long enough to see that. So that was cool for that old guy, again, to see the impact that he made on the bicycle industry. And he was not a bicycle guy. He just did this movie in a way that nobody else could have. Imagine the sport going in a direction that nobody was pushing for at the time. I can tell you that. And so, I'm pretty proud of my collaboration with Hal, and proud the fact that this movie, of any of his movies, still continues to be a fan favorite.
I'm gonna have to rewatch it after this interview. You're bringing up good memories for me, because it was, like I said, it was such an inspirational film. In fact, I was on up a half hour away at another city, and a coffee store owner just introduced his daughter to RAD, and they watch it every year as a family bonding moment. So I think that's amazing.
Super sweet.
Is there a question that you wish more interviews would ask you about RAD, your career, or this new chapter in your life that no one ever does?
Boy, oh man, that's a good question, because I'm constantly shocked when somebody wants to talk about my life outside of RAD, because it's the thing that's going to be on my tombstone. I get it. But I have done other things, and I continue to do other things. RAD was 6 weeks out of my life,
Sure.
and an important 6 weeks. But yeah, I've done some other things. I talk about it in my book that I'm pretty proud of. I don't know if you've read it, but it's been very well received, and continues to sell very well. It's just sort of a timeless story of what it was like to be an actor in the 1980s, out here taking acting classes with, the likes of, I don't know, Adam Sandler was in my acting class for a while, Jermane Jackson. It's just like, how do I get in the room with these people? I don't know. But I also became dear friends with a couple of guys. Miguel Ferrer, who's no longer with us. You remember him from
Yeah.
RoboCop or Twin Peaks or a million different series. And Miguel introduced me to my best friend, Brandon Lee. So Brandon's been gone about, what, 34 years now, I guess. He passed away on the set of The Crow. We were roommates and young actors together. Like I mentioned earlier, we had a theater company together with John Lee Hancock, and had some high-minded ideas about films that we were going to do together. And that time for me with Brandon, the last 5 years of his life, it was golden. And as hard as it was to get over the loss, I'm the guy who got to be his riding buddy, his shotgun buddy for those years. And I wouldn't trade that for anything. I'll tell you that. It's pretty cool. And like I said, I was good friends with Lou Diamond. He came out here and made a huge splash with La Bamba and then Stand and Deliver and Young Gun. So he was on a huge roll, and he had a house here in the hills across the street from David Lynch. His house became a hub for, my gosh, the people running through that house and were in our circle of influence. And there was a Monday night poker game, and it was the young stars of today, like a young George Clooney and a young Brad Pitt, and of course Brandon and Miguel, and there were a lot of others, but these are the guys that are coming to mind that went on to be real game changers in the industry. And at the time, we all thought Brandon was going to be the breakout star because he was so Brandon Lee. No other way to put it. He was just that guy. We were all kind of just looking at our watches going, well, it's countdown has begun. And so we did get to see Brandon and a lot of our friends do very well. And a lot of us were musicians, so we're playing each other's gigs and sitting in each other's concerts. Billy Mumy was a friend. He's a musician. Melissa Etheridge, Steve Lukather from Toto. These people were all in the mix. And we were working on each other's albums and TV shows and movies. It was a very, very creative time. And I think the proof is in the pudding as far as, getting with a cauldron of like-minded artists. And wow, genius happens in groups. It rarely happens as one-offs, right?
Everyone has one person that inspired them on their path to where they are today. Who was that for you?
It's pretty simple. When I did my first movie in 1982, it was called And They're Off. It's basically Rad on horsebacks. It was my first movie, George Clooney's first movie also. We did it in Lexington, Kentucky in 1982. And they flew out an acting coach for me because I had never acted in front of a camera before. His name was Brian O'Byrne. He's a storied character actor. You'll recognize him when you're looking up. Bryan O'Byrne. He was an acting coach to the stars and is wholly responsible for discovering Nick Nolte and foster and helping Nick with his career. His other big find, I guess, would be Christopher McDonald, who continues to wow audiences. And so he was my guy. He took me under his wing as far as a young actor in Hollywood needs to be protected. You got people and religious organizations coming after you, and you don't know which way to turn. So I thank God for Brian O'Byrne that he really looked out for me and took care of my artistic aspirations. He started an acting class out here and was my private coach for years and years. And so to have a mentor like that, and Miguel, he was 9 years older than me and a very important actor. He's widely underrated as just a force of nature. So I had these people that I could look up to. Again, John Lee Hancock, he was a huge influence on me. And George Davis, who was an actor in that theater company. I just was very fortunate from my teen years to be surrounded by world-class talent. And sometimes it took me a while to realize that, but there's no doubt my first movie I ever did, And They're Off, like I mentioned, it was starring myself. My co-star was Jose Ferrer, Miguel's father, who had won an Oscar for Cyrano de Bergerac and I think 5 Tonys on Broadway. And so this was my first co-star in my teen years on my first movie. And then Miguel was there too, a young George Clooney, Tab Hunter, on and on. So I've been thrown deep into the pool several times. My second movie after that was a Robert Altman movie that I shot in Dallas. A lot of people don't remember Robert Altman today. He was one of the most important and influential filmmakers of the 60s, 70s, and 80s. And so he was one of my early champions. before I got to Hollywood. So I can name half a dozen people that were on Team Bill from day one, and I wouldn't have had the career that I've had without them. And it just it proves to me the importance of mentorship and really paying it forward in any way you can, because man, it's made all the difference for me.
For sure. That's great. Um, from a professional standpoint, you've done much in your career. You're an amazing actor. You're, of course, an author, a wonderful musician, and I've had a joy talking with you here today. And from a professional standpoint, you are successful. Do you consider yourself personally successful?
Only because I'm happy, right? You can have all the money in the world or the greatest amount of success and fame in the world, and if you're not personally happy, yeah, it's just it's tragic. So that's how I gauge my success, is my happiness level. It's become sort of a Zen practice for me. If you want to check out Esther Hicks, I would suggest it. But basically, do the thing that's going to make you happy at the time, whether it's taking a nap, going to Disneyland, flying a plane, whatever it is that makes you happy at the time you're thinking it. This has been a game changer for me. So only because you're asking the question, being happy equates with success. And then if you're happy, success is going to come find you. That's just an added benefit of being happy. But that's what I found to be kind of a side effect, is now the world comes knocking at your door.
I love it. That's a great positive outlook too, especially in today's world. What's currently making you happy right now?
Talking to you, Kurt.
Oh,
Yeah, I really meeting fans and knowing that whatever I did made a dent in their life in some sort of positive fashion. It does mean a lot to me. I don't have kids. We foster cats around my house, and that's not the same. So to have some sort of effect as an artist, it's really why I started. Your game changes and your reason for things change, and you got to pay the rent and these unfortunate circumstances. But I can rest happy that something I did made a bit of a difference. And now 40 years later, people still want to create new things, not only talk about the old things, which is great, but we want to create new stuff and get the kids off their phone and on bikes. You know, I'm going to get a T-shirt made up that says, "Let's get kids off their devices and back in the ER where they belong," because it's character building.
yeah. There's stuff we survived in the 80s that we shall never speak of out loud.
Yeah, and not everybody did survive,
That's true.
but the ones that did have some true grit. And so that's the problem, is if you're afraid of your kid getting a nick or a cut or going to the ER, well, that's a part of childhood. It's a part of my childhood,
Yeah,
right?
for sure. No, 100% agree. I've done some stuff that I'm surprised I walked away from, but I did walk away, so that's a good thing. The reverse of success is failure. How do you deal with your failures?
I would say forgiving myself and not living too much in regret. There are dead ends that I went down and relationships that I screwed up personally or shouldn't have been involved in. But if you kind of give yourself a break and go, well, I was doing the best I could at the time with the information I had, well, then it's fine. All's well that ends well. In other words, I've lived in the same house for 25 years with the love of my life. And so, no regrets in that way. It's just personally, I've gone down some roads that, from my perspective now, I shouldn't have. I didn't know that at the time, and I was able to redirect a little bit and kind of redefine my life and what I wanted out of my life.
The younger generation is looking at your work and they're becoming inspired to be creative in their own way, whether it's in film, as an author, as a musician, or whatever else you may have inspired them creatively. You're inspiring them down a wonderful path. How can they inspire the generation that follows them?
Well, goes back to what I said earlier. follow your passion, and doors will open up for you that couldn't have opened for anybody else. And that's just one thing I know. So people are afraid to put themselves out there because it is scary. And we do have to feed ourselves and pay rent. But I did a movie with Tom Cruise called Born on the 4th of July. And we went through a bunch of Marine training. I got really good and tight with a lot of these Marines and really took the training seriously. They ended up making a parody movie of that experience called Tropic Thunder. But for us who went through it, it was no joke. Through that initiatory experience that took place in my late 20s, I was kind of able to drop my fear of mortality. They can brainwash you pretty good into doing things that normal people would never consider doing. But what it did for me is, again, just lose my fear of mortality. I'd gotten into a physical fight with a full-grown timber wolf that was in a murderous rage with another dog. I ran a coyote off a couple months ago that was bearing down on an infant in my front yard. And I'm not saying these are smart things. I'm just saying once you lose your fear, the world's kind of your oyster, because you can probably scare up a meal somewhere. You probably can scare up a roof over your head. And the rest is just, well, what are you afraid of? And then you get beyond that. Now you're in a freedom space. Now you're free. If you don't have kids. If you don't have kids, you can ignore anything I just said and just raise those kids right.
Sure.
But once those kids are out of the house, again, now it's in your lap. What are you going to do with the time you have left? And I think why artists, actors, and musicians in particular get so rewarded so much when they're successful is because so many people can't give themselves that permission to do the thing that their idols are doing. So they're like, I can't do it. You're doing it. Here, take my money. There is a certain bravery in following your passion and being happy. But the downside is you're happy following your passion. So I don't see a downside.
If your life was a movie, what would its title be? And what would its soundtrack be?
Wow, I would guess it would be Hendrix and the Beatles, since these are my earliest memories. And I would change the title of my book from My Rad Career to My Rad Life. I don't know how else to put it. If you read the book, and I've got 1,000 stories since I finished the book, I've kind of had this just Forrest Gump quality where I've been in the room with incredible talent and seen amazing things happen, and occasionally get to participate front and center myself. But when I list these things, I have to pinch myself because, in my mind, I'm still the window washer from Texas who just walked through the door and everything happened. So I don't have any rhyme or reason. I wasn't raised to be a showbiz kid. I was aware of the arts, did a couple of junior high plays. That was it. This thing happened to me, and I just went with it because it felt good. And then once I started trying to be an adult and do adult things, that didn't go well for me at all, at all. And so I guess I learned early on that I don't believe in the American dream, because I've seen the American dream break too many people thinking you could have it all. Probably not, at least not at the same time. Right.
Yeah.
And so I saw my parents and my wife's parents who tried to have the American dream, did everything they could. And at the end, it just broke them, They got some good kids out of it. But, Sigmund Freud said the tragedy of any family is the unlived life of the parents. I'm my own parent. I'm my own grandpa. So that's the sacrifice I've made. I'm not going to have a child to push me around, when I need it. But again, I'm not too afraid. I'm not too afraid. I just don't want to live past mobility. That doesn't sound fun for me, but it might be. I might get back into chess. Who knows?
And they've done wonderful things with automatic scooters too. So, there is that.
That's right.
Well, Bill, I do hate to say, but that ends this particular episode of Two Geeks Talking. I want to thank you so much for being on the show.
I appreciate it. Had a great time. And you can find me at myradcareer.com, or if you want to sign up in regards to the graphic novel, go to helltrack.net.
Nice. And you can, of course, find this interview and over 1,200 plus others on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/TGT Media, because today is our 18th anniversary of the show itself. So,
congrats.
Yeah, thank you. We're pushing on till whenever I pass on. So that's how it goes. But you can find this show and our social medias on our YouTube channels. Kurt Sasso, Two Geeks Talking, TWO Geeks Talking, and on the podcast as well. And as I say every week, everyone has a story to tell. It's up to me to help bring it out. Thanks for listening, watching on Two Geeks Talking.